This is an excerpt from a longer talk that Father Michael Connors gave to the priests of the Diocese of Little Rock. This shorter excerpt focuses on preaching to the mind, heart, and will, and the importance of preaching to the whole human person.
Every homily must appeal to all three dimensions of the human person: mind, heart, and will. Okay, this point comes directly from St. Augustine, who said that in the De Doctrina Christiana, the oldest homiletic manual in the Western Church, to teach, to delight, and to persuade in the sense of moving to action. Now, where did Augustine get this? Well, he got it from Cicero, his mentor in Roman rhetoric, who got it from Aristotle, right? Now, there are many ways to understand the human person, but to me, this one is still a very serviceable one. I can identify my mind, my heart, my will. I think this understanding still is very helpful for preachers. Okay? And I used to fudge on this point a little bit. I might say to my students, well, maybe one week you're sort of more heart-oriented, another week. I've really backed off on that. I think every homily should appeal to all three parts of the human person, because conversion is holistic. The scriptures clearly mean to speak to all parts of ourselves. Now, Lonergan talked about different types of conversion, intellectual conversion, etc., and that's actually helpful. But we're aiming at a holistic form of conversion. Okay? You should be able to identify in each homily things that appeal to each part of the human person. Add one sort of addendum. Yeah, who am I to add something to Augustine, right? But in a modern understanding, I would add one thing, and that I think we have a little bit broader, better understanding of what goes into mind today, and it's not just cognition, which is what most of us lead with, and what our formation programs lead with, understandably, but it also involves the imagination. Okay, I'm going to say more about that in the next slide. Left brain, right brain, you've heard this language somewhere, I'm sure, right? Left brain, right brain. So I want to broaden maybe the understanding of mind a little bit. What do we mean by the heart? It's not just the seat of superficial emotionality. It's the seat of all that matters to us. You're inviting people to fall in love with love itself. That's what's pointed to by the heart. It's possible at a superficial level to have an emotion of sadness, even while at the deeper level of the heart, there's still a joy, a peace, what have you. So heart does not mean something superficial. Again, we're trying to go down deeper. The will is connected, of course, to our feet, our hands, our mouth. There is a sense in the scriptures in which we do the truth. We don't even know the truth until we actually do it. Okay? We do the truth in love. The title of a interesting little book by Michael Himes, Doing the Truth in Love. The scriptural sense here is that doing is actually in some way part of knowing. And I think that makes sense. Yes?
Cut off over here. What does it
Oh.
say in the top right part over there?
Oh my gosh, it is cut off, isn't it? Yeah, what's in the top right part? It's the emotions. Emotions, I feel. Yeah. Okay. Now, a little more on the mind here in the next slide. The cognitive part of what we do is important. Please do not think I'm suggesting that we need to forsake that. Not at all. A homily should be intellectually challenging for people. Let me say that again. A homily should be intellectually challenging. Should give the mind something to work on. As someone was saying to me in the break, it's a nice thing to hear someone say, "Oh, I hadn't thought of it that way." That could be the lead into something that actually matters, changes people's lives. Give the mind something to chew on, but also give the imagination something to work with. People don't just want to be told, they want to be shown. And you do that through story, through image. Okay? We have a much better understanding today, I think, of how imagination is part of intelligence. You know, we see the answer to problems before we can even say them sometimes. You envision the way forward before you can even express it. This is frankly, part of the Catholic genius in its take on Christianity, right? Look at our iconography. It fills the imagination. That's not just icing on the cake. That's the cake. Okay? Our tradition of iconography is crucially important for us. Sometimes the unity and impactfulness is not best carried by a discursive point or theme, but by a narrative or image, which affords the hearer a new way to see her or his life, her or his world. The longer I do this, the more important this seems. We're trying to help people envision life differently. I think this is part of our role, and why Tom Long talked about the preacher as a storyteller poet. We tend to put this down, right? Even today, you might hear somebody say, "Oh, Jason, that's just your imagination," you know, as if that's some kind of child's play. No, it's way more important than that. Yes, our imaginations can mislead us, but we're trying to lead the imagination here in the right direction. People change because their imagination of themselves and or their world changes. Fertilize the hearer's imagination. The scripture, this is part of what makes the scriptures so interesting, right? They give us these incredible stories, like the Emmaus story. What an incredible story. Fertilizes our imaginations. If you read, you don't have to read very far in the fathers of the church, especially in their preaching, and by the way, it's no accident that a lot of patristic theology comes to us in the form of preaching, right? You don't have to read very far before you realize this is somebody whose imagination and mind is full of these truths. Maybe we could do some of that from the pulpit. Stories, images, metaphors are not just illustrations of a point, they are the point. Okay? Again, this is not putting down the cognitive. It's yoking it together, as it already is, with the imagination. Help people make the connections with life. Doing is part of knowing. Okay. Somewhat clear? Mind, heart, and will. Mind is composed of cognition plus imagination. I push my students on this, and the longer I taught, the stronger I became on this. Show me where the appeal to each part of the human person is here.